Hello.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you very much. Something that Esther and Abraham sent out earlier this week triggered some stuff for me. Her comment was about fear actually isn't the issue. It's something that's impeding us, that's within us, that is the issue, that creates fear. And when I first read it, I had to be very clear what the word impediment actually really meant. um, And I was thinking about it, and it's an interesting one because I think that I've noticed in my life, um, I've given a lot of power to fear because I thought fear was the issue, and there's endless books written about it, and endless psychology and mental health issues all about fear. And I thought
Yeah.
that's really interesting because maybe look at it from a different approach. And I was meditating this morning about something, reflecting on this, just observing where there feels like a fear or a resistance within myself. I was just reflecting on it and observing it. And I noticed that several things to me that became really important, including how context is so important. By that, I mean the context of understanding more about who we are and the workings of universal law. So important because I was sitting there thinking, well, I still believe very much that I am my physicalness, I'm my personality, my thoughts, my feelings, the things that happen in my life, that manifest in my life. I really
Yeah.
do feel that very strongly.
Yeah.
Um, and I thought, well, it, there cannot be any movement within that context. Does that make sense? In other words, if that's all I can have an awareness of, if that's all I can hold on to, there is no hope. Because the only thing that I could do is possibly make some changes and possibly get a few things that make me feel better short term, but it's not going to really change much if it's purely about the physical. But what became even more relevant to me was I noticed as a result of my attachment or identifying with the physical, just how much judgment goes on within me. And I'm not talking about because people, I think, I've often associated judgment with like judging someone because I don't like them or judging them because of their color or whatever, you know. But actually, I noticed the whole psyche of the human consciousness is built on good and evil, right and wrong, should and shouldn't. And and that's obviously affected or influenced by our surroundings. And I was just sitting there observing in myself just how much in my consciousness, in my awareness, judgment just goes on and on. It's nonstop. And it reminded me of something I'd come across years ago, which was going back to ancient Sanskrit teaching, which is within the belief that we hold that we are separate from source or the original sin concept, which is a judgment, in other words. It's a stance that our consciousness has taken. Within that, it is impossible to find the kingdom of God. That was what Sanskrit teaching. Obviously, they didn't talk about the kingdom of God, but basically they were talking about the same thing. It would be impossible to find enlightenment, or as in the ancient Jewish scripture, it would be impossible to connect with the Yahweh that's already within us, meaning the consciousness of the universe that's in us. And I
It
was
would be impossible if what?
while we're holding judgment,
All right, okay.
because the judgment that we hold in our consciousness or our awareness, the energy, has to stop us from experiencing the fact that the source of the universe, if you want to use labels like enlightenment or the kingdom of God, there is no judgment. It just is.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, you're right, because I think I'm thinking that, like what you started by talking about fear. And I think, you know, a fear, maybe because I'm just entirely insensitive, but I don't feel as though I feel a lot of fear. But I do feel the presence of judgment of my mind always working overtime to make something of it, whatever's going on. I'm always making something of it, like, this is good or this is bad or this is what I think about it or whatever it might be. I mean, judgment seems to be the whole, that's how you actually live in the world
yeah,
is, is by judging it because you're making decisions about things all the time,
and
aren't you?
and remember, judgment and control are very linked. It's all about control.
Yeah.
Okay, the reason I judge, or the reason the human psyche judges, is because that's how it survives.
Mm.
It had to. I mean, literally, physically, in the very beginning, it had to survive, but that's become the foundation on which the human psyche, or the human consciousness, or the human stream of consciousness has been built, and that's an energy, a vibration.
Mm. And all the
Okay,
time that's coming through, all the time,
absolutely.
I'm deciding that, it's this or it's that or
Well,
it's, I mean,
yeah,
that's the way the mind works in a very binary fashion.
yeah,
Uh,
but
it seems.
if you say you decide, you're actually probably quite rare because most people aren't even aware that that's what's going on. They just are being it. They're just
Yeah.
doing and being their judgment, their control. Um,
Yeah, but
you know,
but
and I asked myself this question this morning when I was reflecting and meditating. What actually am I so afraid of about just letting all the stuff that comes up in me, all the negative for the most part, okay? So when I'm feeling ill at ease about something going on in the world or in my life, you can put any label you want to on it, but actually, if you just if one's just in touch with what's going on inside your body, you can feel the and your mind and your consciousness. There's a feeling of not being at ease, not being at peace. And I was asking myself, what is it I'm so afraid of? Because that's where I realized the impediments are. Because I've got some really deep um, survival beliefs around it. Because it feels to me that if I really let go, I actually would lose all control and be complete mayhem. Um, that's why we're so scared of just letting things that are in the world happen, just let them happen. Because there's this belief that it's a threat to us all the
mm,
time. I mean, I know personally, if I bring it back to personal, the notion of letting go of, because what's happening for me at the moment is the volume or the intensity of the feelings or the energy that's arising in me right now that feels like negative energy, okay? Because I'm acutely aware of how much I am um, judging what's going on in my life, wanting to control what's going on in my life, wanting to do something about what's going on in my life, including my kids. It's just nonstop at the moment. It's extraordinary. I mean, in other words, there is no peace or unconditional love. And I've been looking at it and thinking, wow, it's interesting because the more I'm practicing just observing and
yeah.
and actually my awareness is increasing of how much of this is going on inside me, the worse it's becoming. Now, interestingly enough, at the same time, nothing is happening in the physical to reflect that. If anything, it's the opposite. And that's really made me think this morning, that's really interesting. In other words, I'm deliberately at the moment choosing to do more letting go, just let things be.
Yeah.
Practice giving up having an opinion or interfering or doing something and seeing what happens.
Yeah.
And there's nothing at the moment to reflect the fear or the beliefs I'm holding, the impediments. Because people, I understand when you say you don't experience much fear. That's a very easy thing to trigger in most people's lives. So all you have to do is go within and really think about, okay, I'm going to just let go right now of all my opinions and all my judgments about everything that's important in my life and see what comes up. Okay. In other words, I'm going to give up having judgments of people. I'm going to give up wanting to give my opinion on what people should or shouldn't do. I'm going to give up even telling my kids how they can approach things. I'm just going to let it all go. I'm going to give up worrying about what's going on in the world. I'm going to give up worrying about my health and my financial situation. I'm going to give up um, everything that I habitually do. You'll see how much fear comes up. It's quite an interesting process to do that because sometimes it's one of the best ways of really getting connected to the vibration we're living out of. And, you know, a lot of this, uh, for me, it's not about the intellectual process of it. I really want a greater sense of my freedom and peace while I'm here, because I do believe we can have that. And one of the things I'm starting to understand is I'm not there yet, but I'm starting to make more peace with being in a physical body means there are certain things that just it is what it is.
Yeah.
It's never going to change. The human consciousness will never be anything other than what it is. The human psyche will never be anything other than what it is. Meaning, being in a physical body, the human being to survive is very self-aware. Meaning, me.
Yeah.
Everything's a threat to me, and I have to control my surroundings. I have to control what other people think and do. I have to control everything, which we see is going on in the world enormously right now. Now, most people probably won't agree that's why it's going on, but that is what's going on. And it's going on because remember, energy creates physical.
Yeah.
All right.
I,
Um,
I mean, the idea of when you say you were running through those things to let go of, and I was thinking, well, I don't even know how to begin to think about that,
I understand.
about letting go of that, because I think, well, if I let go of, I mean, I was just doing my sort of home accounts for last month. I'm a bit late in doing it, but and I was thinking, well, would that mean if I let go of thinking about it, does that mean I just wouldn't bother? But I don't think you're
Well,
saying
and that's a very interesting thing because that's exactly how the human consciousness comes to its
work.
conclusion. It gets a
Yeah,
kind of like a childish, I don't care.
yeah.
Well, no one
Oh
said that.
well, you don't want me to bother about anything then, Anthony. Is that what you're saying?
And that's really how it does hear it. You know, many years ago, there was a book that was called Course of Miracles that came out.
Yeah.
It was a big book. Um, and the premise of the book obviously was how much about the physical is an illusion. And a lot of people started using that as an excuse for being self-destructive and hurting others because they said, well, it's all an illusion. Well, that's a pretty interesting way of interpreting something like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I think,
exactly.
you know, it, for me, I suppose how I'm looking at it is I'm trying to understand it's only real in the physical. And therefore, if I'm only going to stay in the physical with it, I, I will not get what I'm seeking.
Mm,
Okay. So, for myself, I try to put it another way. In other words, look, I am in the physical. So I'm not trying to run away from it, although there are times I've wanted to. But, I realize I am living here.
Yeah.
What I'm starting to create a context of much more understanding is that because we have such a deep impediment, a deep belief, and most human beings won't even admit this to themselves. And I believe it's a first step. We have to really get that we believe we are separate from the source of all life. So we really do believe we are different from the beasts, from nature, from everything else.
Mm.
And that is incredibly arrogant and vain.
Mm. Mm.
Okay? Because you see, when I look at animals and I look at the beasts and I look at nature, it is so connected to source, it's obvious. Okay, that's why it's so magnificent. Then we put our judgments on it. We put our judgments on the fact that animals die, or some animals do kill other animals. We put our judgment on the fact that maybe plants die or vegetation dies. We also put that judgment on ourselves. We will be born and we will die.
Yeah.
You're not going to get away from that. Okay, but it's interesting how we live while we're here. Animals don't judge. I remember years ago what someone said to me, Anthony, when you can find inside yourself the place that the wildest beast you could imagine, if it was standing 30 yards away from you and looking at you and be what it is, it doesn't even have the slightest thought about what you think of it. It doesn't even enter its awareness. Okay.
No.
It doesn't for one moment consider any self-consciousness. It may be an animal that day that just thinks food. Okay. It may be another animal that doesn't think just in food. It may think, oh, somewhere along the line, those two-legged creatures have been a threat to my people, my being, to us.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't even know if it thinks that, okay, but it may have an awareness to get the hell out of Dodge or to come and eat the food. But what it doesn't do is it doesn't judge. It doesn't have the nonsense we have.
Yeah.
It knows on some level that it is what it is. It's just,
Yeah.
and
I sometimes, Anthony, when I'm talking to people in business, business is just puzzles in a way. It's how do you do this? How do you make that happen? What is going on here? It's about data and about logic. And the problems arise when you bring in human feeling and human judgment. That's when you get into difficulties because it complicates everything because of what people feel and think about things. If it was just sort of figuring out the puzzle, if I look at my finance management for the last month, if I just look at does it add up or not, that's
right.
quite simple to see. But how I feel about it, you know, that's the thing which sort of adds the complication.
Yes, but part of also how I feel about it, which is, going back to that impediment, is going deeper to understand it's only because I have some energy, some real strong beliefs around that subject about what's possible.
Yeah,
Okay. And most people don't want to even look at that. They don't want to realize that it's just information. The wonderful thing about accounts is it's just information.
yeah, exactly.
Okay. It's a little bit like, when a kid plays baseball, you're either in or you're out.
Yeah,
It's just, you miss the ball or you hit the ball. Just
yeah,
information. And we are so preoccupied with, as you said, our human pieces, which is the emotions, the feelings, the thoughts, and more than anything else, actually, the survival of our human awareness, the self-awareness.
yeah,
But actually, how much do we, I was looking at it myself and thinking, how much do I really, 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 really explore and am willing to go into awareness around the fact that I actually really may be a non-physical being. I may be infinite awareness, an infinite being. I may be an extension of non-physical energy in a body. You know, it's a great idea intellectually,
Yeah.
but going into it and forcing myself, pushing my mind to go within my being and say, somewhere down there, it is there. That's why it's called the unconscious. Okay. I mean, like great psychologists say, we have a conscious mind, a subconscious, and an unconscious. And I'm sure they'll probably find another one when they can. All right. But no
Mm.
one actually pays any attention. We don't pay any attention to what any of that means. All right. We're just going to stand firm where we are, and we're going to resist everything that's going on. And I suppose in a funny way, at the moment, I can't hide from myself anymore. You know,
Mm.
that's what's going on at the moment. When I wake up in the morning, and when I go to bed at night, and when I wake up in the middle of the night to have a leak, it's still going on. All right, and
Yeah.
the the feelings, the body sensations, all that stuff is going on. It's nonstop, and it's either a mixture of meaningless consciousness, like, what was the baseball score, or what's for lunch, or what's going on in the world, or it's distracting consciousness, meaning something's wrong, I'm no good, they no good. In other words, separation from our source, separation from peace and love, real peace and love. I'm talking about infinite love, in where
Yeah.
there is only well-being regardless of what's happening in the physical. It's I- it, I find it quite interesting, and I feel like I'm pushing myself into a corner because I cannot get away from it at the moment. There's no escape. You know, there is no intellectual, rational explanation that can help me escape it. It's like I'm going to have to go in and really observe and start making peace with the fact that being in a physical body brings with it a whole bunch of stuff. And at the same time, I have to also get the what, so that it's only temporary. It's only part of being in the physical. It is not real in the source of this universe. It has nothing to do with the creative force of all that is. And I'm not going to find the answer within the physical realm that I'm looking.
No, no.
You know, you can sit there and study your accounts for hours to try and think, where did I go wrong? But you may have to get the fact that actually I misjudged a whole bunch of things and made some bad decisions, got some information to tell me you cannot spend more than you're earning, you're going to have a loss. Okay. And sometimes people don't want to accept that because they've got all the what they thought was logic. you know Listen, you're right about business. I mean, I'm blown away by how many companies do not care about their customers. They're more interested right now in having their people feel like they have the right to be entitled and have their opinions and be whatever it is that's going on in the social world, and they expect it's going to create something. That's, by the way, that's what socialism and communism were built on. All right, intellectual insanity. They promised something to losers, and in the end, the human nature still took over. I read something today that in America there are many Democrats who are going to Cuba for training, but I wonder if any of them look at what Cuba's got that is so wonderful. All right, I mean, it's mind blowing. Okay,
What
absolutely.
get what are they going for training in Cuba?
In socialism, that kind of
Oh,
thinking, democratic,
oh,
the new age democratic thinking. It's mind
oh,
blowing.
wow.
It's
Wow.
mind blowing. Absolutely mind blowing. All right. This is actually where the human consciousness is taking people. That's why I took it into the First World War, the Second World War. It has always repeated itself. That's history repeating itself.
Yeah.
All right. And I know people sometimes laugh when I say this, which is, to some extent, many, 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 many years ago, I believe it goes back maybe 2,000 years ago, there were those in the the Chinese culture that realized that human nature by nature was evil. It was the devil. And therefore that was the only thing that, to have a culture survive, expand, and grow, you're gonna would have to do and have some laws about it. Now, I'm not saying that's what the answer is. What I'm saying is it was interesting that they started to understand that about human nature. You know,
Mm,
we live in the Western culture, which is um, in complete la la land. It's in complete denial of everything that history has taught it. Okay, even when it became the dominating empire during the 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 1900s, it didn't get it, and that's why it lost it. All right, because
mm.
and but let's bring it back to what I'm starting to understand for myself is my human consciousness, the human psyche, the human stream of energy is fundamentally the devil. Now, does that mean I have to absolutely control it or everything about it? No. I need to be aware of it. I need to make peace with it. And I need to, when it comes up, I need to deliberately see what's happening, acknowledge it, and start laughing at it and let it go. And I need to start consciously becoming more aware of who I really am and universal law. I need to align myself with the source of all life, in which actually there is no judgment. And if that
So
means I need to
when
sorry,
you call it the devil, when you call it the devil,
yeah,
people will think that's a really big judgment
correct. And that's the point.
that you're saying
Yes.
about, you know,
Yeah.
that the human being is bad and wrong and
Well,
evil
yeah, and
and
that's the
brings
point.
evil.
And that's the point. You're right. You see, until they really get that that's what it is, it judges. So you've got to find a way to actually look it in the eye and start laughing at it because it's only temporary, it's not real within oneself.
Yeah,
And it's actually possible to start laughing at it a little bit more about what's going on in the world. Because you see, I notice when I still have energy that comes up around things like injustice, okay?
yeah.
That's one that's I really don't like. I don't, there's a number of things like still triggering me. And I notice, yeah, I'm still holding that energy because I still believe it's real. I still think it's going to take away something from me. And that's the fear of the self aware human psyche. It comes back to that the human psyche believes everything is a threat to it. And it's only when
I
I get it that
suppose,
simple.
I mean, it is real, but it's the judgment that you're making about it that is the thing.
Yeah. But it's the judgment of it as being real that actually then brings it to me because that takes me out of alignment with the source of this universe. What's the worst thing that can happen to a physical being?
It dies.
Yes. Okay. But guess what? It's going to happen anyway.
Yeah,
At some point, all right. I know, and it's that duality of getting that. It's going to happen. So therefore, I need to I need to find my way of just letting go of that perceived threat all the time. Just let it be. Even the thought is a perceived threat now. So that's why I judge it. Because the moment I'm feeling upset or angry, it makes me start judging it. It's just
yeah,
energy. It's human energy. It just is. And if I
yeah,
realize it doesn't have power over me other than the power I'm giving it. That's why fear is an illusion because most people give fear the power.
yeah.
Now, am I saying that means I shouldn't fear anything? I don't think I'm saying that. All right. I'm saying just be conscious. When you drive a car, be aware. When you when you decide to engage in a relationship, be aware. Be conscious, be present to what's going on inside yourself and what's going on around you.
Yeah, I
Pay
mean that's the
attention.
thing. You're absolutely right. That's the thing is that you might have those different negative emotions, whether it's of fear or sadness or whatever it is, but it's the judgment. It's the judgment that it feels like it's the judgment that is the devil.
Yes,
You know,
because
the
look,
fact that we take an opinion about things and we're so rooted in our physical selves and so right about the opinion that we have. And so in denial, you're absolutely right about being in denial of being an expression of source because, we kind of think we're away from the rest of nature and we're not part of nature. We're not nature.
correct.
And
And
that is really, that is really cut off. I read somewhere the other day, I can't remember where it was, Anthony. If I find it again, I'll send it to you. There was something about ancient Jewish teachings, which was that to do with the belief that God was in nature. You know, that the source was immanent. I don't know if that's the right word. Actually here, present,
Well, that's what
thrusting. You know,
isn't that what the kingdom of God was about?
yeah,
Kingdom of God is here now. Okay,
yeah,
Enlightenment is here now. Okay,
exactly,
but
exactly.
the only thing that stops us from being here now is our human psyche. It's judgment.
Yeah,
Okay. I mean, I love it. I always crack up when I see this, where I read about people who've gone out in nature, nature hikes or some kind of stuff, and taking selfies and fall off the end of a cliff. Okay.
yeah, yeah. No, that's not funny, Jane. Yeah,
No, but it is funny in a way because you see, that's it's not about the intellectual process. I'm looking at for me, I realized years ago that if I'd gone to live in a monastery or somewhere up in the Himalayas, I probably would have been at peace. But I
yeah,
would have been at peace because I wouldn't have had to be around people. Okay. But that's not why I came here. All right. That's not finding God for me.
no,
All right. For me, finding God is the life I'm choosing to live now, what I'm doing. I'm a parent, I'm a husband, I'm doing things, I'm living where I'm living. I want to have peace and joy in that. I want to look at what's stopping me from have joy, experience more joy. All right. That's what I'm interested in, the quality of
yeah,
my life. And
yeah,
that to me is surely that's what it's about. Because people, when I hit that point when I start giving up the drama, my attachment to it, my addiction to the judgment, the drama that goes on within the human psyche. And I hit that, well, what's the point? It would be so boring. So, in other words, what I'm really getting is it's only through that self awareness, the Anthony awareness that gets triggered through drama that I feel alive.
mm,
Okay. And that's a pretty sad state of being, to be in it the whole time. It's like, well, why can't I be alive and have a lot of joy in relationship to the world, my world, through a different way of perceiving it, a different, through repenting properly, through actually aligning with the now. That's all that's my motivation. I'm not looking to fix the world anymore.
no,
Because truth is, I want to fix the world because I still do believe, I really do still believe, I can feel it inside me at a deep, deep level of my energy, that what's going on in the world right now has power over me. And I'm talking about not just even the big world, by the way. I'm talking about, I even believe that what my kids do, what my wife does, what just the immediate things around me, I do have a deep, deep belief that what's going on with them has power over whether I experience my oneness with the universe, the source, and joy or not.
yeah.
I may be the only person on the planet who actually believes that, but I doubt it.
And that's why you want to control it.
Correct. And the thing that I'm learning to celebrate is actually just having the awareness to realize what the hell I'm doing here, trying to control all of this so that as opposed to realizing, you know, I mean, it's insane. It's insane.
I
You
just had a
know?
picture of you trying being at some big, like those things that in music production studios with all those knobs. When somebody's in a control room and they're trying to, and you're stood there trying to move all the knobs so that you're in control, and it is just hilarious.
Yeah. And this is why, look, why do you think someone like President Trump upsets so many people? Because he's pushing and reflecting back what's going on in all of them. All the people who are upset about Trump want to do exactly what he's doing, which is control the world. They want to control everyone. The problem is he's that kind of guy that actually is one of those people that actually can do it. All right. That's what Putin does. That's what the Iranian leader does. These guys, Hitler did it. These guys, they actually did it. They did control their environment for a period of time. They did oppress and control people's lives. That's why they upset everyone, because most people want to do it. They just don't tell themselves the truth. That's what they're trying to do. That's why they're going out and marching and protesting and all this stuff that's going on in the world right now. All this hate. That's
Yeah,
what it
which
is. It's a
it
manifestation of hate.
I think it's partly that. I think it's also to do with the fact that they have a big thing in relation to justice as well. You know, where they see that somebody who's controlling things, they're not doing it in a fair way.
Uh, I think that's the delusion, by the way. I think they delude themselves that they think there are people who even know what justice actually is. All right.
Right.
Because if they actually stopped and looked at their behavior, they would see how unjust it actually is because they believe in everything that's put out by very good propaganda, right?
Yeah.
It's like when my kids come home and believe something because a kid says to them, and even on this level, when a kid comes and says to my kid, "You're actually fat," all right, and then they're upset. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, that may be mean, it may be unfair, it may be unjust, but the bottom line is, who's the one who's holding the energy and the judgment against themselves?
Yeah.
Who's the one who's believing that that's what is real in the world? It's as simple as that. You know, if we really get that we actually are the co-participant or creator of this universe, and everything around us is just reflecting back what the energy we're holding, it's quite an extraordinary thing. You know, if I just get, and I do get it because I can put in a TV program, Jane, that can be a TV program made in Hollywood or made in Bollywood or made in China. And in it, it has drama. It's amazing how that drama can push energy in me, emotions, sensations. All right. I mean,
Yeah.
talk about being insane.
Yeah.
All right. Even while watching it, I get hooked in it. What does that tell you? And then we wonder why there's so much mental health issues going on.
Yeah. I think that's a very interesting point that you've raised there with Trump or with anything that's out there, you know, with somebody saying that you're fat or whatever. The fact that you are co-creating the experience with the perpetrator. You know, like
Yeah.
you're by the ears that you're hearing it, you are being triggered and you hurt yourself. You know, you're going to revolt and
Yeah,
push
and
against somebody like Trump or push against the,
exactly. And Jane, I don't like it. I don't think it's fair. Do you understand?
yeah,
On the human level, I do not think it's fair that I should be upset when someone calls me something. Do you understand? It
yeah,
doesn't, it's not fair. They are
yeah,
they're the baddie. But you
yeah,
see, the problem is, this is where context comes in, is who, you know, again, I think it's unfair, so it must be real. Do you understand? My thinking it's unfair means it must be real. It's like the universe really cares how I feel.
yeah.
I mean, talk about delusion. All right. And, you know,
So
it's,
you're saying the reality, the sort of co-creation of it is that by being by feeling something about whatever, we are making it real.
yes, but also differently, what I'm saying is everything's about expansion of awareness. That's what the universe is based on, by the way, expansion. The
Yeah,
universe is expanding its own energy and consciousness. It really is. We just don't get it. Okay. We don't get our part in it. You understand, as human beings. We can't see that part, that we are part of this universe expanding. And our awareness, which is non physical consciousness or non physical energy, is vital in it. So when I am feeling upset because someone's called me something, or I read something in the newspaper that is a goes against my tribe, all right,
yeah,
and I get upset, that's because my awareness is where it is. That's what I'm still holding. So until I expand my awareness, I'm not going to bring peace to the world because I'm not at peace. Does it make sense?
yeah. It
No.
does. It does, but it kind of leads me to think, well, okay, I'm not until I can. be at peace in spite of Trump and Putin and all the
Yeah,
others.
that's true. Until you can be at peace in spite of them, your opinion and my opinion is only adding to the problem. You really
Yeah.
got to get it. We've got to get it. I know it doesn't seem fair. Like I said, I there are days I don't like it. Okay, there
Because
are.
it also feels like you're abnegating responsibility,
Of course,
you know.
because that's what the human psyche is built on, delusion. Okay, listen. The other day, my one son said, "You know, the problem is, Dad, you care too much sometimes about what I'm doing." And he said, "You know what? It gets in the way." And I'll tell you what, that felt very hurtful and unfair. Okay,
I bet it
because
did.
it's like, what do you mean? I love you so much, and I got it, and I had to go away and really sit with it, and I felt, I felt a sense of shame because he's
Yeah.
right. He's right. It's so human driven. You know what I mean? It's like it's driven by myself, my little self. I'm so important that I love you, therefore I have the right to do it. Listen, when I take out the judgments of it, it was quite funny because I thought, God, this shows you how insane we all are. All right,
Hmm.
because there was no space in there for the fact that he, even at 16, is an extension of the source of all life. All right, I mean, you look at nature. Look at what point, little animals let their little ones go. Why? They seem to intuitively understand it. All right. They give them a certain level of protection. They let them go. And yes, some of them get killed along the way. Now, I'm not saying that's what we have to do, please, because there's some people probably out there who don't have the ears to hear what I'm saying. All right. I think you do. I'm not saying to you. What I'm saying is we need to expand our own awareness of what love and peace really is, if it matters to us. If it doesn't matter, don't worry. Carry on doing what you're doing. All right. Because there will come a lifetime where you will probably get round to it. You got to get to a point where I felt this lifetime where I did not want to keep doing this. I don't want to keep coming back and having a shit time. All right. I really
No.
mean that. And I mean that sincerely. I had this conversation 10 years ago with my two boys. And I said, guys, you got to understand, not even you are that important to me. I said that to him. I said, not even loving you is that important that I want to go through having a miserable time while you grow up. I don't want to do it anymore. So I want to wake up. I have to wake up. I just don't want to keep doing this. It's insane because I can tell by the energy I'm carrying that I've done it before. I could feel that energy in me that sometimes wants to slaughter a whole neighborhood. All right. I could feel that energy inside me that thinks I have the right to rape and pillage. Okay. And
Yeah.
I know there are people out there who probably think, oh, well, I'm crazy. Well, maybe they should look inside themselves and see how much when they're going out and protesting and when they're going and doing stuff, it's resulting in people going out and shooting people because that's what it's given power to.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's what people don't want to tell themselves the truth about is actually, you know, the amount, the moment of energy that's been put out into our physical planet about the right to kill others because we don't agree with them. And then we see it manifesting in different parts of the world and everyone's in denial about it because it doesn't suit them politically to realize that that's as relevant. And we know the perfect example of it was what happened recently when Iran decided to kill 20 of its own thousand people for protesting, right?
Yeah.
I didn't see anything on the American campuses. I didn't see any of the kids out in the neighborhood protesting that. Well, that's hypocrisy, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So what they want to do is they want to bring it into the country. And then one day their grandchildren will live under that kind of rule. That's what the world always does. It just goes around from one continent to the next continent. People forget how advanced Persia was at one point, how enlightened it was, how tolerant it was, how much acceptance there was there, how much trade took place. I'm telling you now that 90% of young people today, and I'm talking about students at college and high school, have no idea that that existed at the time. All right.
Yeah. I
Okay.
know. I know. I
And there
mean,
was there was no oppression there.
no.
And it's interesting to see how that evolved into oppression. Okay.
Yeah.
All I'm saying, all I'm just saying is just it's all of it's just it's there. All right. I mean, you take a country like America. When people left Europe to come here because of oppression, that's my
Mm,
understanding when
mm,
I read about it. Why the people left Ireland and these places was, Britain and Europe is because of religious oppression and all other, and they're recreating it here because
mm,
they can't let go of the part of them that still believes and identifies with the tribe, that consciousness.
mm.
They're still saying it's me. Well, it's the old adage. You can take what was it? You could take Beckham out of East London, but you couldn't take East London out of Beckham. That was, I think that was in the dictionary, wasn't it?
I, d- I don't know. I don't know if it was that one, but
Sorry, David, I love you, but there's a joke about that anyway.
uh,
You got to go anyway, don't you?
yeah, I have to. Well, I have to go shortly. Yeah,
All
yeah.
right. Well, we'll catch up soon. It's always fun talking to you. It stirs me up.
Always fun. Always fun. Giving me something else to think about.
All right. Lots of love.
Lots of love to you. Bye bye.
Bye.